Right, hello. I'm Fergus, head brewer at Adnams, and I've got a couple of other people joining me today. So I got Dan. Introduce yourself, Dan.
Hello, I'm Dan.
Dan, what do you do? A bit more, Dan. Come on.
Okay, I'm the lead brewer. Yeah, Fergus is my boss. Yeah, he tells me what to do.
Well, sort of. I think you tell me what to do most of the time. And also, we've got Rob from Thornbridge. Rob, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Rob Lovett. I'm the head brewer at Thornbridge, and we're just sat here on a Friday afternoon, ready for another exciting weekend of absolutely nothing to do. So,
Yeah, good. So obviously we're doing a collab this time, but it's obviously weird times to do a collab.
Yeah.
The plan was obviously to get you down, but then the current lockdown kicked in. You haven't visited for the actual collab brew, but I think so. This is the next best thing, I guess, until we actually send you the finished beer. But until then, I guess the idea was to try and incorporate a bit of Ghost Ship, and we're sort of using your Wild Raven as a starting point, and then sort of reimagining, I think is the technical term, reimagining as a dark beer and brewed with English hops, really. So I think Dan's probably our resident expert on English hops. So you want to talk us through what hops we've used, Dan?
Certainly.
And why we've used them.
Why? Oh dear.
Why?
So we really want to use a lot more English hops. Historically, probably they were all English hops once upon a time. And then when I joined, there was probably, I don't know, 15, maybe 20% of the hop contracts were US hops or New Zealand or Australia. And then over the years, as Ghost Ship's really grown, it's become like our biggest hop. Well, Citra has become our biggest hop. So in current circumstances with English hop farms, we thought that we really need to sort of support our sort of local hop farmers, really. They're on our doorstep. We talk about being sustainable. When it comes to sort of cask beers, I mean, this was originally imagined for a bit of cask. Whilst some of the English hops are not exactly like your Citras and your Mosaics, they do have a place in beer, and I think probably Rob would probably like to talk about the values of English hops and cask beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, English. I love English hops. I think they're so full of character and subtle, and there's a reason why they were in such high demand. And I think a lot of these modern varieties from America, well, they're certainly not subtle. But that seems to be the sort of way that people's tastes have gone in craft brewing. That people want the Citras and the Mosaic, and nothing can ever be pungent enough. So it's quite nice to go back to our roots quite often. And a lot of people don't like those flavors. A lot of people do want those sort of refined and deft flavors that you get from noble hops. So I think it's obviously represented in terroir as well. I think the hops from America, the reason why they like that is the temperatures are slightly elevated, and it's obviously obviously the soil's going to be different, I would have thought. So without a doubt, it's down to that terroir. But it's fantastic to be able to use English hops, and we use them in a large percentage of our beers. But not as much as the American hops, but it's still significant.
Yeah, and I think they do have a place, as Dan was saying. I think, I think we obviously love the sort of the citrus and the big notes we get from some of the US hops, but equally, I would say Fuggles is still one of my genuine favorite hops. And I know it's a bit of a divisive hop, but I love that hop when it's used in the right way. And I think some of the newer varieties coming out have a lot of potential. I think they're not all going to last the course of time, but some of the newer ones I think show some lots of interesting character. Like you said, we're never going to get to the same pungence, the same level of aromatics that the US varieties have, but I think we can get a true English sort of character again and get that back into the beer. And particularly over the last year, I think because they're I guess English hops are predominantly used in a lot of cask beer. Obviously, they've seen a lot of probably a bigger hit, I guess, than compared to lots of other beers, and lots of other hop industries probably haven't seen quite as big a hit over the last year. So I think, as well as the sustainability angle, I think we're really keen on trying to make sure we use English hops where we can and support that industry, to make sure there's enough growers in the industry to actually have a hop industry in the UK. So I think the danger is if we all jump to the next mosaic or whatever it is, that when we don't use English hops and we turn around in 10 years' time and actually there isn't an industry anymore.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think we've sort of always tried to support some of the newer varieties, because it's not easy for English hop growers to come out with new varieties, because compared to, say, the US, where you were talking about the sort of terroir, Rob, they can get 8% yields off first year of plants, whereas in the UK it might take 2-3 years to get like a decent yield. So being too fickle with what you're using as well doesn't help the hop growers either. So you do have to kind of commit and think of the long term as well.
Yeah.
So what varieties, Dan, have we used in the Nevermore, which is the name of the collab?
Yeah, so we've used a kind of a blend of sort of older varieties and newer varieties. We use a lot of Fuggles and Goldings in some of our other beers, but we went for Challenger for one of the sort of older varieties that have been around. Challenger can be kind of susceptible to some diseases, but it is an amazing hop. One of my favorites. I sort of grew up in a home in a brew pub, and their sort of major hop that they always use was Challenger. So I've got kind of quite a close affinity to that hop. And it's very complex. I mean, even within Challenger, if you smell different samples from different farms, it can be expressed quite differently. So it can be really spicy. It can be quite floral. You can get that kind of cedar, sort of piney note off it. So it's quite a beautiful hop to work with. So we've used that in the kettle. We've used a little bit of Jester for bittering, but we've also used a lot of Jester in the kettle as well, along with some Olicana. Sorry, we didn't use Jester in the kettle. We used UK Chinook. Sorry.
You're the expert, Dan. If I brought you on,
yeah, I know.
I can't even remember what's in.
Yeah, and we used some UK Chinook. We really like Chinook. We use it in Go Ship. Again, Chinook's an underrated American hop, I think. Again, it can have some really nice pineapple notes. So we kind of wanted to see if the UK Chinook was sort of up to scratch, and I think we got some really nice flavors from it in the kettle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sample we got in of the UK Chinook had probably the best pineapple note, even outbidding some of the US varieties. I think it had a really nice candied sort of pineapple note to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that was kind of the kettle hops, and yeah, we kind of led with UK Chinook, so kind of had that Go Ship angle, I guess. And then in the fermentation, we used the loaded Jester, sort of 24 hours into the fermentation. The reason we sort of did that was Jester can smell amazing on the rub, but in the past we've really struggled with really getting the sort of nice fruit out of Jester. Sort of using it late in the dry hopping, sort of later in fermentation, we can get some quite unwanted sulfury compounds. So the idea was that fruit is there. It probably has quite a lot of thiol contents in the hops, so there might be a lot of water soluble bound thiols that we might want. So get it into fermentation early, drive off some of the unwanted sulfur stuff, but then hopefully there might be a bit of biotransformation and we can actually retain some of the wanted fruit characters from the Jester.
Yeah.
And then after we sort of harvest the yeast, our last dry hop was with Challenger again, Mystic and Harlequin. And Mystic and Harlequin are kind of two newer varieties on the scene. Sort of Charles Farham have done quite a lot of work to try and fast track a bit of hop breeding and varieties for, to compete with some of the US varieties. Consequently, some of the plants they will accept are not going to be right for the growers, which is unfortunate because Mystic is an absolutely amazing hop, but unfortunately it's doesn't have the best yields and is a bit susceptible to, I can't remember if it was downy or downy mildew or not. But yeah, they've taken some plants away to Slovenia, I think, and they're cleaning them up and they're going to have another go. But there might not be much hope for that hop. So,
but it's worth saying that normal course of events, it takes over 10 years to take a new hop variety through the process, and obviously farms, because of the sort of demand for those big flavors, are trying to push that process as quickly as they possibly can, which does mean that some varieties will some of the ones that have some flavor will fall by the wayside because they don't have the right agronomy. They're not going to get the yields. They are prone to some diseases that in normal times, if you've got your 10 years to play with, then they would get weeded out pretty early. But because we're trying to push on flavor, then they make their way partway through the process before the agronomy kicks in. So I guess in terms of this, for people who aren't familiar with the Raven, Rob, do you want to describe what Raven is?
You really want though. You don't really want those the dark malts to be overpowering in it. Really,
yeah. It's
more about the colour of the beer rather than the you don't want that sort of really robust flavour that you would get with the normal stout. Hence why the term black IPA comes from. If it's got the colour of a stout, but the sort of body and mouthfeel and flavour of a standard IPA, so it's quite a complex malt bill though. It's amber malt, and it's obviously the pale ale malt, which would be your house malt. It's Marish on or?
No, we were not on Maris. It's just standard spring. I think are we on at the moment, Dan?
Yeah.
And there's amber malt, brown malt, chocolate malt, and I think that's it in terms of the malt bill.
Are you reading this off the screen, Rob?
No, I'm not. Do you know how many recipes we use? And how often our production plan changes. There's absolutely no chance I remember any recipes anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's a great beer. So I'm sure it'll do just fine in this beer.
Yeah. So what's happened to Cascadian Dark IPA? I thought, what are we not using that term anymore?
I don't even know what that is.
It was what they were going to. Because people were upset about calling it Black IPA. They decided Cascadian Dark IPA was what they would call it instead. No one seems to use that anymore.
No. Can't you get like a white coffee beer these days?
Yeah, we've done a pale coffee beer in the past.
They're quite good actually. We've done one as well, but
yeah. And we did a white chocolate stout a while ago as well. It was quite interesting. I think we got a little bit of abuse for that. That was nice. But I guess the combined idea between the two beers was that we would do a sort of an India brown porter, so taking some of the hoppy characteristics from both beers, and then building up some of the malt character, obviously using some of the brown, letting some more. I think we probably let a bit more of that malt character come through, I guess, Dan. So there is a bit of brown in there. We are looking at a bit more roast character.
Yeah, there's a little bit of roast character, definitely. I think our yeast behaved quite well in the fermentation. We've got some lovely esters which seem to really be promoting some of the hops. But yeah, there's a nice roasted sort of biscuity background, which I think was well balanced when we were tasting it out of tank anyway.
Yeah, it was lovely the other day. So it's, I think we dry hopped a little bit more since then. So we'll have another taste next week, and then we'll get it in can, and then we'll send some more up, and then we'll annoy you with another video, Rob.
Oh, that's great. Can't wait.